So it's just a quick run through on Nina, but mainly around the mosaicing, which I've only played with. I've not actually done a full mosaic yet, but it's quite easy to do the framing and do the mosaicing all in one go, and then generating your plan or your sequence, as they call it, from that. So I'll just show you my sort of process or how I go about it. So there's two ways. Within Nina, you've got the Sky Atlas, which is very similar to Telescopius, if you ever use that. So you can search for objects in here, and it gives you some details. It gives you a small image, shows you the altitude throughout the night for your location, and then from here you can either create a sequence, so it'll put that, I'll come to this later, but it'll put that as a target for a sequence, or what you can do then is set for framing. If I click on the framing assistant, so what it does now is it takes me into the framing assistant and it centers that object there for me. Now, what I've done is I've configured my camera details in here, so it's resolution, pixel pitch, and also the focal length. So it gives me a nice view. It shows you my viewpoint of, how I'm going to frame that that object with that given camera. So you can do that with the Sky Atlas thing in here. But what I don't like about it is it hasn't got many common names. So if I search for the Heart Nebula, it doesn't know anything about it. And I'm terrible at learning the proper names. So I don't tend to use that much. What I tend to do is use Stellarium. So again, I've got my camera set up, so you can see my camera reticule here with the details in. And then what I do is I scoot around Stellarium, have a look for objects, see what I fancy taking an image of. Yeah. So let's say we're going to do the Heart Nebula. So I'll just point over the Heart Nebula like that, go back to Nina, go into the frame assistant, and then this button here will actually pull the coordinates out of Stellarium. So if I click on that, it'll talk to Stellarium, get the coordinates, and then it will download images from the Sky Survey here, which is set here, and it'll show me the object, and it shows you the framing as it was inside Stellarium. Yeah? So that's a quick way of getting in, and that's the way I tend to do it, is that I'll look around Stellarium, find the object, and then pull the coordinates back into the framing assistant here. So from here, what you can do then is you can build your sequence, which is like the equivalent to the plans in APT. But what I'll do is I'll show you how to do the mosaicing, and it's really quite straightforward. And again, it's a bit like Telescopius. That is a similar thing. So if I'm looking at this, obviously the Heart Nebula won't fit in this, the framing for my camera and my telescope. So what I can do here is I can do the rotation, so I can try and fill the rotation, whatever camera angle I want. Still not going to fit. So if I want to do a mosaic, I just say, right, I want to do a mosaic of 4 panels. So we just tell it how many panels we want to do. We can then rotate it, frame it up. We can move the frame, something like that. So if I'm happy with that, all I do then is just tell Nina to recenter. What it will do is it'll just center everything around the center position for that frame that I've got there. So it's pulled that to the center. So what we're telling Nina here is we want 2 horizontal frames, 2 vertical frames, and we want an overlap percentage of about 20%. So that's these lines in the middle showing you the overlap, so that when you come to put your mosaic back together, you've actually got some wiggle room to actually stitch them together. Yeah. So once you've got that, to create the sequence is very easy. You come down here to just say add target to sequence, tell it it's a simple sequence, and it then builds your sequence for you. So we can, and this is the standard sequencing inside Nina. So across the top, you see we have 4 frames, and that is the information on each of those 4 frames that we've just done within the framing assistant. So it builds like a sequence set, they call it, which has got all the information in that you need. Now, what I've done on mine is I've set a template up, and it has entries for every possible combination I would probably want to do. So what I would do then is I'd say we're going to do this in SHO. I would just come in here and tick these on and just say, for these targets, I'm going to do these sequences. I'll just save it just in case I kill anything. So I can save the whole set, so we can come back to this at any point in time. And then what Nina will do is when you set the sequence going, it'll plate solve to your first frame, do all the plans in there, then it'll plate solve to your second frame, third frame, and fourth frame. And that way, you've got everything in the sequence that you need to do your whole mosaic. And this is Nina's just sort of standard sequencer. And you can do this with mosaics or just with single shots. And in here, you get all the different options you could possibly want. So starting at the top, you can tell it when you start to cool the camera, unpark the mount. I always do automatic Meridian Flip and just let Nina worry about it. And at the end of the sequence, so that'll be on the last frame, you can tell it, obviously, warm the camera, park the mount, the standard sort of stuff. Yeah. And then this next, sorry?
Andy, just when you've set the sequence.
Yeah.
Now, surely Nina won't know what rotation your camera's at until it's actually plate solved on the first target.
That's right. I was going to come back to that in a second, actually, Ross. So let me just go through this, and then I'm just going to flop back to this framing assistant and just show you what else is in there. A part of that is the rotation.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this block here where my mouse is, it just gives you some information. You can delay the start by so many seconds. It'll tell you here how long the whole sequence set is going to take. So in this case, it's going to be 18 and a half hours in total, based on the fact that there's 4 frames to do, each with 3 different filters of various different number of subs. This line will tell you what this particular frame, which is frame 4, is going to take. So that would take just over 4.5 hours. So that gives you a clue as how long integration time you're going to get in total and how much each one of the frames within the mosaic will take. Yeah. And then down here you just have your standard sort of Nina options, which is I'm going to tell it to slew to the target. So as soon as I start this, if it's not at the target, it will slew to it, it'll plate solve, etc. And it will center the target, so it makes sure that it's as close to the center as possible. And then what Russ was talking about here is the rotate. And I'll come back to that in a minute, but there's a way, what Nina will do is tell you what your rotation is, and does your camera match what you've put in the framing assistant. So it can do that, and it can help you get that aligned quite accurately. Then I obviously just tell it to start guiding, so it'll fire up PhD, which I've configured in the options, so it'll fire up PhD and set it guiding. And I tend to leave all these on just in case I forget to do them, so that normally when I start my camera, I set the cooling going straight away. But I have this set on in case I forget, and then it will just start the cooling on the camera anyway. Yeah. This next block is the autofocus options. So again, I set it, in this case, I've got it set to do an autofocus on start. Then every filter change, I'll do an autofocus. And the other one I have is on temperature change. So in this case, 5 degrees, I'll do another autofocus. There's other options here, so you can do it every 30 minutes or an hour or 10 minutes, whatever you want, every number of exposures. Or you can also do it, it'll analyze each image and get the HFR values for the stars, and you can do it and say, if that's increased by 10% or 15%, I'll do an autofocus again. I tend not to use that one because if you get clouds or something whipping through, it can screw your HFR and it might start trying to autofocus when it doesn't really need to. Yeah. On the right hand side, for each of the frames within the mosaic, it shows you obviously the altitude of your subject at any given period in time, so you can just get a visual clue of how high it's going to get, how much sort of, obviously you've got the nighttime period here, so how long it's going to be dark and twilight, etc. And then underneath is just really a list of the subs that you want to take. So in this case, because I've only ticked the top 3 on, we're going to take HA, O3 and S2. And I've set some default values, and what I'll do is I'll tweak these depending on what I'm going to take an image of. So you can set how many you want in total, obviously the sub times, whether it's the light or whatever, so you can do darks and flats all within the sequence if you want. I tend to dither every 5 frames, something like that. And then on the gain and offset here, what I've done is I've said use whatever I've set up as the default for the camera. So when I've configured my camera within Nina, I've set a default gain and a default offset. So these will then just use that value. So whatever the value is I've got for my camera, it'll use that. But we can override it. So I can just put, oops, if I can type, sorry. And there we go. So I can override that if I need to. And then just blank it out, and it'll go back to the default. My stupid mouse. Yeah. So that's like the equivalent of APT's plan. So it's called a sequence in here. You got, and this is the simple version. They've got a really advanced one which does lots of clever stuff, but I've never really needed it yet. So you can set your autofocus things. You can set how you're going to slew or your rotation, etc. And then obviously you set it going. And if at any point you pause, say you pause the plan, you can't do it all in one night with a big mosaic. When you can save your plan, so or your sequence as they call it, and it'll save the position that it's at. So if you've already done the HA and you're halfway through the O3, it'll save that information so that when you load it up on your next night, you can just carry on from the position you're at. So it'll know if you've completed frame 1 and 2, maybe you're halfway through frame 3 of your mosaic. So that way you can save everything, come back at a later date, and you can do it over a period of time. So just going back to Russ's comment. So I'm just going to drop this back down to a single. Sorry, I'm just going to jump about a bit. If I go into the equipment, so in Nina, you have a tab here which you set up all your equipment. So this is where you connect your camera, etc. One of the things in here is called the Rotator. Now they've got an option, something called a manual rotator. So if you turn that on, obviously there's no hardware, but what it will do is when you do your framing, as you're testing your framing here, there's an option to say slew and center, or slew, center and rotate. So obviously I've clicked on it, it's going to fail because I've got nothing connected. But what if I do slew, center and rotate, it will then do the normal plate solve. It'll go to the object, do the normal plate solve, get it in the center, but then it will look at the orientation of the camera as it's plate solved and compare that to the orientation of what you want for the framing. And then it will pop up a little window like this. So it says your current camera is at this position, your target is this, so you need to rotate your camera this many degrees, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. So that pops up, you rotate your camera, click OK, and it does another plate solve and says, okay, yeah, you're closer, you still need to go 3 degrees. You do, click OK, another plate solve, and you can set the tolerance up in the configuration, but as soon as it gets within that tolerance, it says, okay, your camera is now rotated. So you know your plate solved, your object's in the center, and your camera is in the correct rotation. So that if you come back to this plan, you might come back to this plan after you've done a different object where your camera's at a different position. So you can do that within the framing assistant, but also within the sequence. If you have rotate on, it'll do the same thing there. So if I come back to this plan in 2 weeks' time, and I'm on the 3rd frame of the mosaic, and I've done something in the meantime, and again it'll check, I'll do a plate solve and say, right, you've obviously moved your camera, you need to rotate it anti-clockwise or clockwise by this amount to get it back into what you've defined within this sequence. Yeah? And I find that really quite accurate, and that's one of the I think this framing assistant and the way this links in with these sequences is the main reason I haven't swapped back to APT since they sorted out their autofocus stuff. I really like this framing assistant and the way that you can easily build your sequence from it. The rotation I think is really good, and I just find it easier than APT now, which is the reason I've stuck with it. Does that make sense?
I like that.
Is that a bit rushed?
Yeah, I like that manual rotation. I don't think there is anything in APT for that.
No, there isn't. Because the way I used to do it in APT was I would do the go-to plus, do a plate solve, and then I would send that information back to Stellarium so that I could see the rotation, so you could get APT to Stellarium, and it'll show you what your viewpoint is within Stellarium. And then I would go, okay, I need to rotate it a little bit, and then go through that cycle. And I couldn't find the equivalent, or I couldn't find out how to do it in Nina. So I asked on their Discord server, and then they pointed me and said, try this manual rotator, I think you'll find it easy. And I do, I find it really easy. So I don't have to swap now between APT and Stellarium trying to figure out, have I got the rotation right? Yeah, it looks about right, it looks close-ish. This window popping up, telling me what my current position is, which way I need to go. You just click OK, it tests it again, adjust it, rinse and repeat. Takes a few goes, depends how accurate you are. And then once it's within the tolerance that you've specified, off it'll go. You plan.
Yeah.
And if everything else is happy, you plan on your image and you're off and away.
What happens if you're in the middle of one of these plans and it does cloud over completely? It will continue to take pictures. There isn't anything to say stop taking pictures. I can't focus.
Not within this simple sequence. I believe there's a lot more in the advanced sequence, but I've not had a look at that yet.
Because you wouldn't know about it, would you, if you just left it running and gone?
No, true. No, you wouldn't. But it does talk quite closely with PhD2, so if PhD2 starts having a fit and saying I'm giving up, I'm not sure if Nina will then stop the sequence. I've not had that issue at the moment without me being aware of it.
It would be a really good feature, wouldn't it? Because then you haven't got to trawl through loads of data that you realise there's nothing there anyway.
Yeah. So I haven't had a look at the advanced sequencer, because that can do really clever things like, so I want to start imaging, say, Andromeda tonight, but in there what you can do is say, I only want to start imaging when it's above a certain height, so it needs to be above 25 degrees. And when it drops below 25 degrees on the other side, I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to start this other subject, but only when that's above, say, 50 degrees. Yeah, so there's lots more things you can put in on the advanced stuff, and that might be one of the options. I'm not sure. It might be clever enough to say, okay, I'm obviously getting shitty images here. Maybe I'll pause the pan and just take an image and just make sure that the stars are visible, the number of stars. I don't know. And that's my next thing to look at, is just to see what else we can do in there. Your example is a prime candidate for what would be nice if you could do that. But in this simple sequencer, no, I don't think you can do that. No. I don't think it's that clever. So, but this is the first one to build. They've now brought the advanced one out, which has got a lot more in it.
So there is a paid version of this, is there? Or
No, this is completely free.
So
it's completely free.
The advanced bit's just part of it you've not looked at?
Yeah, I've just not had a chance. I've only been using this probably 4 or 5 months, then it's only been out about 5 times. I liked APT and I used it for quite a while, but when we got the mono QHY cameras, they weren't very well supported, and the autofocus routines were near as good. Russ stuck with it, and I know they've improved it vastly, the autofocus with the APT now, and the support I think for the QHY cameras is much better. I'm not sure about the filter wheel. Have they sorted that, Russ?
Yeah, that's all sorted. It came out in 3.88. That's all sorted now.
So my intention was to just use this as temporary and then go back to APT. But I mean, this has got some real quirks and it can be a real pain in the ass at times. But I really like that framing assistant. I really like that manual rotator. And this, even though this is the simple sequencer, at the moment it's doing everything I want.
I'm not entirely sure. I've not looked into it. I've got a feeling that APT also has a manual rotator. I've seen it.
Might do. I never saw one when I was using it.
Yeah, it's something that I've not looked at.
You're a bit quiet, Russ. You're a bit far from your PC.
Oh, is that any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I've not looked into it fully, but I'm pretty certain I've seen something like that in one of the menus.
Yeah, it might well have, yeah. To be honest, I've not looked at APT closely for a few months now. I've just got used to this and I find this works just as well now. And I still think the autofocus in here is better than better than APT, even with their new one. Let's put it this way, I've had no issues doing any focusing on in Nina at all. It's been rock solid.
I'm not in APT now. I know exactly what sets I've put in.
So
that was the other
rotator option in APT. I can't recall seeing that. I know that when I try and frame up, I'm just like comparing the star field on Stellarium to what I see on a sub exposure and trying to guess.
Yeah,
that's what I do now. But I've got a feeling there is a smarter way to do it. I know there's a framing tool.
The framing tool's nothing like this, mate. I did have a look at that.
Yeah, all right. I've not looked into that at all.
So, but yeah, so I really like this framing tool. It's nice that you get these sort of sky survey images as well, so you can see. So there's two that I use. This is the more colourful one and loads a bit quicker, but it's not as detailed. And then there's the NASA survey. Now, when you first load them, these take quite a while to load down, which is why I tended to swap to this bit more colourful one. But you can, I think the framing on here is really nice. You can see details in there. You can get a frame what you want. The manual rotator. Once I understood and learned about it, I think it works really, really well. Within a couple of minutes, you've got your rotation sort of bob on. Yeah, and then to do a mosaic is just the same as you would normally frame, but you just put a couple of extra things on, and it takes it all into account.
I'm interested in this because I've realised that a lot of my targets, I'm not going to get them in my field of view with my refractor, even with a reducer on. So if I want to do the heart, I really need at least 2 frames.
Yeah.
And maybe more. I have actually found a way of doing it in APT, which talks to carte de seal, and it probably talks to Stellarium in the same way. The mosaic grid that you're getting there is actually created in carte de seal.
Right.
And it then sends the coordinates of the grid to APT, and it becomes part of one of your custom to-do lists. You know where you've got all your objects and your stars?
Oh, yeah.
You've got a custom list and you've got a to-do list. And basically, once you've actually got it the way you want it, you click on send to server and it sends it to APT and it creates 4 or whatever, how many frames you want, with all the RA and deck information.
Yeah.
The problem I've come across with it is you can then build that into a plan. You'd have to do it manually, and unfortunately you need to use scripting, and the scripting is only part of the paid for version, which I don't use at the moment.
Right.
You can actually enter manual script commands, but if you want it to do it nice and smoothly, you need to buy it. And the reason why I've not bought APT is I find it still crashes on me every now and then. And,
right, okay.
I thought I won't buy it till I know it's stable for me. So I might in fact go to this and try this instead.
But yeah, have a play with it, and if you get stuck, give us a shout. There are some quirky bits in this as well, so it's not all plain sailing. One of the things that really annoys me is so I've got my sequencer here with my 4 frames. Yeah, let me just save it again. One of the nice features is if let me just close this lot off. So if I just get rid of these, So if I open a set, so here's a plan I had previously. What I can do is I can click on this little icon here, and it will send them coordinates back to my framing assistant. So if I come back to a sequence, yeah, I can then have a look at how I framed it by pushing it back in here. Unfortunately, it's taking. Let me just stop this. It's taking ages to load them. Sky Survey ones. Let me get the quicker ones. Oh, what's it doing now? Yeah. So, hang on. Let me try that again. So if I go back to the sequence, I'll take the mosaic off, click on there, it takes me back, and it shows me the framing that I had for that sequence, which again is quite useful. So if you want to look at it and say, is it still okay, or how did I do that, you can do that. But where it falls down, excuse me, is if I load up this mosaic, okay, and I send that back to the framing assistant. Once it's loaded, it only sends one of the frames of the mosaic. There you go.
Right.
Which is annoying. And you'd think, oh, what I could do now is just add the other panels in, but you add them in, and they're not in the same place.
No.
So that I do find a little bit, a bit annoying. But be aware, I am running a beta version here, so I'm on beta of version 2. Yeah, so I don't know whether they've fixed that or whether it's been looked at, but that's a bit of a pain in the bum. I mean, you can just drag it over, but you can't see your exact framing on the mosaic by pulling it back in from the sequencer. But you can do for single panels.
So, what do you actually use for stitching your mosaic together then?
I played with PixInsight just to have a go. I mean, I've not actually done a proper mosaic. What I've done is I've tested this. I took like 3 subs of 4 different thingies. I think it was only 2 actually what I did, and then just played with it in PixInsight just to get an idea. So I've not actually done it in anger, but I do know that the sequence works, it's fine, the overlap's good, you can stitch it back together, but what I did wasn't worth keeping.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a test.
I know that Photo Merge and Photoshop will stitch it for you.
Yeah, APP does it. Apparently that does a really, really good job on mosaics.
APP is really easy as well, Martin. You can basically it just does it itself, yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
So, but yeah, you can certainly do it in Photoshop.
A couple of questions about this. So, if you get partway through your sequence, and then you realise that, I don't know, 10, 15 subs were unusable, is there any way that you can go back in the progress to redo a part of it? Is that possible?
So what you can do is you can pause it, and then you can edit any of these that you want to. So, and you can reset, I forget where the button is. Is it this one? So you can reset the progress of the selected row. So assume that one I've got highlighted there. Say we've got 15 images in, like you say. If you come back to here, you can click that, and what it'll do is it'll reset that progress down to 0. Yeah, and then you just resume the sequence, and off it'll go again. So you can alter these on the fly. You just have to pause the sequence. That's all.
And you can resume it from a point in the sequence, doesn't go back to the beginning of the whole sequence.
No, it'll remember it. So imagine these first 2 lines are completed, and then like Rick says, we've got to 15 on here. Yeah. They're all shite. Yeah. You select that line and click reset. Click this reset here, and it'll just reset that line.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that, but it knows that it's already done the first 2 lines. Yeah,
because the progress will be 30 out of 30.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So it'll know. So unless you reset them, it'll know that they're 30 out of 30, they're complete. So when you click resume, it'll carry on from the point where the progress is not complete.
Got you.
And at any point there, you can pause it and you can save your sequence, and it'll save the state of the sequence at that point, so that when you come back and resume, it knows exactly where to resume from.
Right. So I don't think you can do that in APT.
No, you can't.
So what I end up doing is editing the plan in APT to remove the bits I've already taken and just start from the next point.
Yeah. So I don't
how does this software name your sub exposures? So is it easy to know what you've done and the timing and what order things have been done in?
Yep, I can show you some of that. So if we come over to the options, so on the options here we've got various bits of information. So you've got a general tab, and in here you can set up profiles similar to APT. So I've got profiles there for my different scopes. So it's got different focal lengths setting, and then there's basically all this sort of stuff is the colours. You can show it in zillions of colours, same as APT. Down here is my latitude long. So the next tab, equipment. So this is just putting it's a bit random. So you've got your telescope down here, the camera pixel size, lots of other stuff I don't use. Oh, that's the connection to Stellarium, so you just put the details in there. If you have Stellarium running in server mode, you can then talk to Stellarium, and that's how it pulls the information back. It's got the filter wheel stuff in here. The one I think you're looking for is in imaging. So in here is where you can set what the directory and the file name patterns will be, and these are all the variables that you can put in, which will then substitute into the file name.
Yeah, that's like APT, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like APT. So there's loads here. So I have HFR and other bits and pieces on there, and here it shows you an example of what the output would be. So it's got the camera, the object, the date, whether it's a light. I might have the object in twice, I'm not sure. What filter it is, what duration it was, the HFR value and the sequence in the...
And can it separate into folders as well?
Yeah, it can, because the dots, if you see the markers here, they're folders. So one of my top level folders is the camera. So I group all mine by camera, then by target. So in here, if you want it in a folder, you just put your I don't know whether you can see that actually, but you put a slash in between, and then I think from this point onwards here is the actual file name.
Right.
Yeah. So the last part of it after the slashes is the file name, and then you can separate. Again, you can use any of these values as either a directory or a file name part. So I separate mine by camera, target name, date, and then I have essentially that really. And then in the file name, I put various bits of information.
So
that's where.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's particularly relevant to this particular point, but so when you're doing your your flats and your dark flats, how does that get built into the sequence?
It doesn't. I presume you can, but I never bother. What I do is I use the flat wizard. So in here we have a flat wizard. We can tell it how many flats to take, how many dark flats to take, and you can either do it in single mode if you've got one-shot colour, or in multi-mode here, you can then say, these are the filters that I want to do light, R, G and B for argument's sake. Yeah. And you can set various parameters. And then you just run this, and it will produce all the flats. Then it'll tell you to cover the thingy, and then it'll do all the dark flats.
Why do you set your target ADU in there?
That is set... That's a good question. It is in here somewhere. Good question.
But yeah, I just can't do a tab for it.
I think is this histogram mean target. 1 second, it might also be... This is another thing. You do have bits and pieces of config in different places, which can get quite annoying. There is a setting somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't remember where it is. Is it in here? No, can't remember. Sorry. I'll find out for you. But I think it might actually be did have the percentage saying I want a 50%.
Yeah, it might be that.
histogram.
'Cause I suppose it knows that you're using a 16-bit camera, so it knows
Yeah,
what
exactly.
your view is. So if it's 50%, then that's there or thereabouts, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll just work it out. And it does work. I mean, this is what I use. So I don't tend to put, obviously, the flats and the dark flats in the sequences. I just use this.
So it's like APT then. It does a several exposures to try and find the best exposure for an ADE or 50% histogram or whatever.
That's right, yeah. But it does it for each of the filters.
It saves it as a sequence?
No, it just runs it. So it'll just run through.
It runs it right away, right.
Yeah, it just runs it through straight away. Then when it covers it, it does the dark flat at the equal time for the whatever filter you've used. So you do it, you got single, or it'll handle the filters as well. So just coming back to these options, the Meridian Flip in Nina works brilliantly. I leave it running now. I don't worry about flips anymore. So you can set that to do a plate solve, or it'll plate solve the last image, do the flip, and then it'll do a go-to plate solve on the first one after. I think APT does the same, doesn't it? So that you get the same framing as your last image before the flip. And then you can tell it where to save the sequences. You can tell it you can create a template, which is just a sequence that you store in a particular folder, and then it'll use that to build new ones. So what I did was I created a sequence which had an entry for every one of my filters turned off, saved that as a template, and told it to use that for new sequences. And then I just tick on the ones I want to use. Saves me building it up each time.
Wouldn't the rotation be reversed for a Meridian Flip?
What do you mean?
Is the camera not the other way up?
Yeah, 180.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
Because when you do your registration, it'll just rotate them in when you're stacking them.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't have...
The actual image would be upside down compared to the first set before the flip.
Yes, true, but it'll still be something at the same location, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it knows, and Nina knows that it's 180 degrees, so that's fine. It doesn't ask you to re-rotate the camera because it knows a 180 flip you just sort out in stacking.
And then it's like a 4-panel mosaic, and one of them's inverted because you've done a flip halfway through the sequence or 3/4 way through the sequence. APP or whatever will just invert that one to stack it anyway.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So what other options have you got in? So you've got your standard stuff where you enter your plate solving information, which plate solver you're going to use. Then you've got settings for your autofocuses. So a lot of these I've just left as default. I've added all my filters down here for my mono. I told it what exposure length to use when doing the autofocus. I find that 7 seconds, in fact I could probably lower that, but 7 seconds works for me on every filter. It doesn't matter what subject I'm on. So there we can just tell it how to do the autofocus method, how to do the curve fitting. Again, I think it's all pretty default. I just left it as is. Autofocus works a treat. Then, so coming back to here, you've got various bits of information about your telescope, and then general information where you can set up profiles, etc. That's the config. When you start your session, you usually go into the equipment tab, and here is where you actually start the various bits of equipment. So in this case, I've actually started the manual rotator in here, just to show that, that's how you would start a device. Yeah, so you've got your camera. You find it in the drop-down list. Just click start, and then obviously it reads all the information, the current settings, etc. Then with the filter wheel, similar to APT, you just go to your gear tab, don't you, in APT, if I remember rightly. Guiding, I've set up PhD 2, so it knows to automatically. So if I haven't got PhD 2 running now, but if I click start, it'll fire PhD 2 up for me. Obviously, I've got no cameras connected, so PhD is having a fit. Can't connect to the mount either. But that way, in my sequences, I always tell it to start guiding. So if I accidentally forget to start PhD2, it'll start it for me. And if it's already running, it just ignores it. Yeah. I don't think I got nothing on switches or any of this other stuff. So yeah, it's usually these top tabs. The camera, the filter wheel, the rotator, focuser, etc. Yeah, that's it. That's a quick rundown, really. This framing system is really sold me on Nina. I really like it, and the way you can build the sequences from it. And that manual rotator, it just makes acquiring your target, getting it all framed and rotated correctly, quite easy, really.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I think I've kind of put a lot of investment in APT, and I do find it very intuitive. You know, there's a lot of big buttons. I think we're looking at Nina. There's a lot of little buttons. You know, my eyesight's not, but it's very big and a bit crude, if you like. But you know, I'm kind of used to it. The only thing that bothers me though is that I'm getting it's carrying on the sequence of or the image plan in APT, but then it's not writing it to file. And I've gone back to APT, and they say that possibly I'm using too long a file string, folder string, and they just suggest C APT folder,
Okay.
in your folder, etc. But like Martin said, that's the only thing that I have to keep watching it. I can't leave it and trust it to do it. And that I was thinking of trying Nina if I can't get that to work. But I've got the new 3.9 now. Let's see how that goes. But is it any more? Looking at what you've just gone through, it looks quite similar to APT in terms of difficulty to use. It just looks more difficult to use because it's more tiny buttons on it and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's like anything. Once you learn it, it's actually quite straightforward. Like I said earlier, sometimes it's a bit annoying because you've got a bit of config over in its options, but then when, like say, you do the flat wizard, there's little bits of config in here. And I found that was the worst bit. It was just, where do I configure this thing? So it's like APT. It's got its quirks, Once you get the hang of them, it's okay. The imaging tab. Sorry, I haven't showed you the imaging tab. This is quite nice. So once your sequence is running, you tend to sit inside the imaging tab. So in here, you've got as much information as if you want to show. So actually, here you can see my last autofocus run. There, you can see the filter wheel. All the information you need. Obviously, I've got nothing running. Image history, etc., etc. So your images, your images pop up in your image history here. So similar to on APT, it comes down the right-hand side, doesn't it? So you can click on them, and then you obviously get to see the image itself within this section. But again, you can configure these so you can actually move this about. So if I don't want the telescope there, I can put the telescope over here. You can configure where these windows go, what order, how you want them. But when the plan's running, you tend to look in here. So you've got like a shortcut to the sequence. So in here you can see that how far you've got through it. Which if it's a mosaic, which of the sequences or which of the panels you're on. It'll show you how many subs you got through, etc., what filter you're on. The camera itself, you can come in here and do single shots. So if you want to test your camera or just test your sub lengths, you can control the camera from here, etc. So this is like your dashboard when things are running, and that's in the imaging tab. But I'd say give it a go. If you're struggling with APT and anything, give it a go. But it's got its quirks, and there are some rough edges and some annoyances. But for me, this imaging dashboard here is quite nice, and the framing and the sequencing I quite like. I don't tend to use the Sky Atlas, basically because I can never remember the proper names of things, and this doesn't seem to have sort of friendly names in there.
What sort of power laptop are you running it on? Is it okay having all those things going on at once?
Yeah, I mean, my laptop is quite decent, but it doesn't take a lot of resources, because once it's up and running, it's only taking an image every 2 minutes, isn't it? It's not really doing a great deal. It probably doesn't take as many resources as PhD does. So
it launches EQ mod automatically, does it?
Yeah. So again, unfortunately, because I'm not connected to anything, but when I start my session, I would come into the equipment tab. I would click on telescope. It shows me all the telescopes I've got here. So I've got my EQ5 and my new 35. I'll come there to connect. It'll fire up EQ mod, but obviously EQ mod's going to fail because there's nothing connected. I hate EQ mod. Bag of shit. I'm going to move off that and go on to the Green Swamp server, I think. That's a different story. But yeah, if I was connected, then I would get... See, it fires up EQ mod.
Yeah.
So as you connect to your devices, it fires up all the relevant bits and pieces that you need.
It would be nice if there was one single program that had the whole lot in it, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Yeah, it would. Like I say, the only reason I moved from APT was just because the focusing at the time and the support for our cameras was rubbish. I had every intention of going back, but I've kind of got used to this and stick with it. So that's about it, really.
Yeah, well,
questions or anything else?
Yeah, we've had a good run through there. I'm interested in giving it a go. The writing looks a bit small to me on screen. I don't know how you find that out in the dark.
It's not too bad. You can change the font, but I don't know if you can. Oh, hang on. I don't know if you can actually change the size of the font, unfortunately.
I've got it on full screen here for recording, and it still looks tiny.
It is quite small. The user interface is a bit clunky, and you're right, it is smaller. I don't know of any way to change that. Well, there maybe is, but I can't see it.
That's the thing I like about APT. It's quite crude.
It's easy to look at, isn't it? It's easy to see which buttons
it's
you want.
important at night, when you're tripping over wires and things.
Yeah. I must admit, on the imaging tab here, which is the one you tend to have open, these little things down here, they're not... These little tabs, they are quite small. I mean, you can change the window size, so you can obviously make that window bigger. But the little tabs in the writing, it is quite small, yeah.
It's just that process of learning it. Once you know where everything is, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But when you're still looking for it, you're having to search for things if they're...
You are, yeah. Yeah, so when you first get it, what you'll do is you'll come into options, and then you'll just go down this left-hand side, setting either profiles up on whatever colours you want, put in various bits of information in, etc. And then on your actual session itself, you just go into the equipment tab and just start at the top, connect your camera, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. And then I've usually created my sequence in advance, so after that I just go straight to the sequence and fire it off. Because it'll auto plate solve, center, rotate, and everything for me. Yeah. So that's the order I do things. But I've nearly always done... Sorry?
So you're literally just connecting your mount, your camera, and whatever else peripheral stuff you've got, autofocus and all of that stuff, and then immediately you just click go to whatever sequence you've generated.
Yeah, more or less.
Mad, absolutely mad.
Because I generate my sequences in advance. So if I'm going to go do Andromeda tomorrow, then I will create. I will have done my framing assistant and create my sequence in advance. So then when I come in, I just connect everything up, go to sequence, obviously I've done all my polar alignment, etc., and just click play on here. Because I've told it to do everything.
The plate solving is an integral part of the sequence, whereas in APT it's an extra that you can use if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do
in APT, I do exactly the same thing. I write all my sequence first.
Yeah.
And then all I do is literally just go out when it's got dark and I finish my polar line. I just go plate solve, happy, and then it all autofocus and then run straight into the sequencing plan. And I'm back ahead.
Yeah. So they all do a similar thing, don't they?
It's true though, but Russ, are you not using Stellarium to sleuth your target?
No, I can't. For some reason, I can't get my computer to. On both my computers out here, I can't get Stellarium to talk with APT.
So are you using APT to slew then?
No, what I'm doing to find the target, I'll check what I'm going to image, normally in Telescopius or Stellarium outside during the day.
Actually, go to your target, you use APT, don't you?
Sorry?
To actually go to the target, though, you use APT.
Yeah,
that's. You use an object in APT, don't you?
Yeah, so don't use slew in APT then, Rick.
What I do is I frame in normally Telescopius or Stellarium, whatever, and then when I'm happy with the framing, I'll take the coordinates myself and I'll put them in as a custom target. And then
I don't do that.
So all I need to do is when I go in the evening, is get the custom target I've already put in there and say, right, I want M whatever or whatever I've called it, Russ's Galaxy, whatever, and then just go to ++, crack on, and then as soon as it's plate solved, then I just hit the plan and away it goes.
What I was saying was the actual plate solving bit of it is separate to the plan, whereas in this it's an integral part of the plan.
No, you can write it into there if you want. In the scripts, there's a go to ++, so you just go script, go to ++.
If you have the full version, there is. If you don't have the full version, there isn't. You can't put the go to ++ command in.
Martin, it's only 15 quid.
It's
not the end of the world, is it?
Crashes. I don't buy software that crashes.
Yeah.
It must be your computer. I've never ever had APT crash. I leave it running all night. I just got it down.
I'll tell you when it does it most of all is if you start off doing something and then decide you want to stop and you click cancel. That's when you get trouble.
Have you ever had it crashing?
Never. No.
I was going to say, when I used it, I never had issues with it. The ones I have issue with is EQ mod. Back of shit.
I've never had it crash at all.
Right.
No. I think it's punishment for not spending £15 on it.
Yeah, maybe the non-painful version has got a timer in there to randomly crash.
I suspect it's more likely maybe an issue with your laptop or whatever that you're using.
Well, I've got a brand new mini PC and it still does it, so I don't think it is. It might be the gear I've got. I mean, I obviously had that cooling issue as well, but that has been solved now.
Yeah, but that was a known quirk that has been fixed.
Yes.
That really wasn't APT's fault. That was Leigh Astro.
Yeah, it was their driver, wasn't it?
Something to do with their SDK, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think my battery's running low, so if I disappear, that'll be the reason.
So, but just going back to your point there, Russ, that's a step we don't have to take. I don't have to get the coordinates centrally manually into the custom objects to do the go-to. No. I can just pull it straight from.
I could if I wanted to. I'd rather look at it. I'm just a bit anal at
no, what I mean is,
and then
in APT you can't pull the coordinates directly from Stellarium, can you?
I don't know
what I mean? So if I'm in Stellarium, like you say, I find something I like the look of.
Yeah.
You can from cart to seal.
I honestly don't know. There's something I haven't tried because I'd like to say I can't get.
You certainly couldn't when I was using it. Yeah. I can drag that in. Obviously, it takes a second or two because you can download the Skype. There we go. Yeah. So, and I just find it easy to use doing it that way.
I mean, APT has got a massive catalogue of stuff already.
I agree. I agree.
I just rather, I find it easier and quicker to put it in myself.
But the issue I used to have, like you say, APT has got a lot of stuff in, but if I want to frame, if I want to frame these two up, the point I might want in the centre of my frame is not going to be in APT's catalogue, is it?
Yeah, no. And
do you know what I mean? Say for some bizarre reason I wanted to frame it like that, I'm not going to be able to do that easily with APT.
What you can do is you can put the mouse where you want it, click on it, it will tell you the RA and deck.
Yes, you can, yeah. But what I've grown to like about this is I can just pull that in now.
Yeah.
But the problem is even if you put in that RA and deck, it's not going to necessarily point to that spot. So when you take your test frame, you might still need to manually move it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Why won't it reach that spot?
Because obviously, so for example, when you put in your RA and deck initially, it's not necessarily going to be pointing exactly where you want it to. That's why you have to plate solve and do your go-to plug, right?
Yeah, but what I do, right, let's say, go back to Andy's thing where I do in either Telescopius or Stellarium at some point during the day, in the morning, I've had my coffee, I think, oh yeah, that'd be a nice target. That's how I want it framed. So then I get my RA and my deck from there.
So where can you get that from? Stellarium? Because I never looked at that. Would you mind just bringing up Stellarium, Andy, so we can see how to do that? So where are you looking now for the RA and deck? Oh, there, at the top left.
There, yeah. So it always shows you there. That's assuming you've got this setup to show you your field of view.
Yeah. Which I've got that.
Yeah.
So then what do you do? So you put that in the APT, yeah?
Yeah, just put it in the custom setting, APT. So that's where. So let's say I want to frame it. Right, where Andy's got it there, for example. So you can, in Telescopius, you can actually export the list and import the list into APT, I believe.
Pointcraft.
I've done that in the past, but I just do it manually because I play with it on the iPad and then go to
objects.
Anyone, it don't matter. It's in loads of places. Custom.
Yeah, because that's where I used to put them in there. I mean, you can do all in APT. For me, the Nina part of that is much simpler, but it's no big shakes, But
it's, but then when you go into it, Rick, you just literally go to ++ on that custom setting, and it will be manual target.
That is, oh my god! I'm going to tell you, this is embarrassing. This is what I've been doing, right? So I will be on Stellarium. I will pick a point on the sky in Stellarium, and I'll slew to that part of the sky using the shortcut, which is Control.
Oh, he's gone.
We lost somebody. He's back.
Oh, we disappeared.
Come back, Rick.
Here is Rick.
Forgiven.
Anyway, I do it a ridiculously stupid way, like 4 steps for the same outcome.
No.
So
put your stuff into the custom, and then you can just go into objects here, grab it, and then you can do go to ++.
Yeah. He's giving me a reason not to go to Nina now.
and also, Rick, that if you get the image up on that, so you take your image, actually thinking, what I saw wasn't quite what I wanted to go to. If you, I can't remember how you do it, but I think you double click on it and go aim. It'll put the new coords into the objects that you can then go to ++, and it will slew to adjust to what you actually want. So you're basically framing on the image that the initial plate solve image, if you like, as well.
So
if you
click on show there in the Pointcraft and then put the pointer on the screen.
You click on show, it takes you to it in Stellarium. Yeah, so you can. So if I'm point at Andromeda, I've plate solved this image in APT. Yeah. If I click show, what that'll do is that'll push it into Stellarium and shows you where I was pointing. God knows why I was pointing there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Have we lost Rick again? No? I thought we lost somebody.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So what you can do then, Rick, as well, is click on this aim, click within the image, what it'll do then is it'll plate solve and center that into the middle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And it works well.
Yeah, you have to press go to plus plus again though, don't it?
Yeah.
It's basically
Sorry, yeah.
the centre field of view and position. So.
I've been looking at my frame and then going back to live view and then using the actual arrows, the ASCOM arrows to move the frame approximately where I want to go.
No, don't do that. Use Pointcraft, do the plate solve, and then just point at it.
Yeah.
God.
Could you just go back to the objects in APT there, and then your to-do list? So it's blank at the moment there, isn't it? Oh, it's because you've got one in for you.
I've got one in, yes. I've obviously done that a while ago, yeah.
I had a look at doing this mosaic thing in Carte de Seal, where Carte de Seal has a mosaic option that brings up those boxes when you can say how many you want, 2x2, 4x4. And then there's a button there that says connect to the server. Provided you've got APT running, the 4 boxes, RA and DEC, will actually appear in this list here.
Okay.
So then you can actually shoot each one of them manually if you want to, just by doing, go to plus on them.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do was to build that into a script, and obviously in the paid version you can actually put the go-to command into a script. So the plan shoots 10 of one, then goes to the next target, shoots 10 of the next. So the plan has go-to built in. It also plate solves in the same plan, but you have to write the script to do it. So it's a bit more involved than doing it than the Nina way, but it can be done.
Yeah, I mean they can all do the same thing, can't they? But yeah, just Nina gives you this, cleanish way of doing it.
Yeah, and I must say, I actually, provided it would work on my machine, I prefer that way.
I'll give it a try. It doesn't seem to be resource heavy, but I mean, this laptop I've got is quite beefy. But yeah.
Do you use this laptop for processing, Andy, as well? Or?
No, I use my big PC for that.
You got a PC,
yeah.
This lad's a gamer. He's going to have massive PCs that are turbo cooled and.
No, it's a bit out of date now for gaming. So, but I'm a software developer, so I have decent PCs.
A graphics card that costs more than your car.
No, it's old now actually. So.
I mean, those new GTX ones, they cost a lot of money, don't they?
They do, yeah. Yeah.
What have either of you guys thought about getting an automatic rotator, or?
I did look at them, but they're expensive and they're heavy.
Are they?
And I thought by the time I added that on with my filter and my camera, it's getting a bit heavy.
Yeah.
They're about £600 one I looked at.
Yeah, they're not cheap, are they?
No.
But the manual rotator, it's a bit of a pain. You've got to be stood outside and get cold, but it's quite quick to get the angle right on your camera. And then once you've got that set, you set all night.
Do you guys have any better contraptions than the thumb screw things? The thumb screw things for slackening off, then rotating it. I mean, some of them have brass rings inside, don't they? The
only thing I did on both my scopes is I bought some mitre table tape, and it's basically stainless steel graduated tape. Okay, it's linear graduations, not degrees, but to me that doesn't matter. I just want a marker. But it's stainless steel, self-adhesive, so you've actually got graduations all the way around both rotators, and that's handy. That is handy, so you can always see where the last rotation was, if that makes sense. So if you happen to knock it or whatever, it's a lot quicker just to go back and realign it. For the sake of like £5 from Amazon for 3 meters of the stuff, it was well worth it.
Do you use a click lock or anything like that? A click lock
no.
To be safe?
No, just the thumb screws.
I don't trust those bloody things because I always put a rubber band around my camera as well, just to make sure it don't fall out.
I've never had one. The only time I've had one rotate was with the filter wheel on it, and I knocked it carrying it in or carrying it out. But that's the only time I've had one rotate when I didn't want it to rotate or didn't intend to rotate it. Because the filter wheel is quite a big circumference, so you've got a bit of a turning moment on it. But that's about it.
Yeah. I bought a decent brass compression ring, so at least the thumb screws are securing it on a compression ring rather than just indenting the equipment.
I've got a weird thing that came with my second-hand gear. It's a Hotech thing, and basically it's a tube that expands when you actually twist it.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those?
I've got a field flattener that does that.
It does
the
definitely. It's
Hotech
definitely a
field
better
flattener
grip.
either manufacturer.
It's a better grip than the thumb screws.
And it's self-centering. So the SCA stands for self-centering.
Whoa.
You don't have to worry.
We've gone. Something's
Yeah, stop screaming. Stop screaming.
All right.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about the thumb screws. So they're really good. Those SCA self-centering adapters.
Yeah. Right. Well, Pete said his charger, his battery died, so he's disappeared. I just thought I'd mention it anyway tonight, but we're probably going to do another calendar thing. So you need to be getting your best image ready for the calendar. So try and get 12 different people. Are we going to do 12 days of Christmas again? That was good. Are we going to do our 12 days? That was good last year.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, we can do.
We should do it because it's nice to revisit stuff that you've done over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got 12 images this time.
We'll do that again then, yeah. I have to think of some more music. Can't use Interstellar again. Great music, that, wasn't it? Fantastic.
Yeah.
2021's been bad, hasn't it? Relative to 2020 for Astro. I've just done hardly anything compared to 2020.
Have you actually got any images from this year?
I think I've got enough, but I've got way less than I did that first year that we started Astro, 2020.
Well,
you're gathering more time on each image, though, aren't you?
One image. So just think of one image, because I'm trying to select 12 people to do one image for each month, type thing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So if you just pick out your best image, and then I'll put it on the group later on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Andy. I can't see you on the screen. Hopefully you're still there somewhere.
I am. Yeah, I'm still kicking around. Yeah.
That's been very useful to me anyway. I hope other people have seen that there are other programs other than APT that you can use.
Yeah.
Like I say, I just wish there was one single program that had everything in it, guiding included and everything, rather than have to link these separate programs together, because that's where you get issues of things not working.
Well, there is one.
What is it? Maxim?
Ecos.
Ecos. Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
The Stellamate stuff.
Yeah.
That's got everything built in. Polar alignment, autofocus, everything. Framing assistant, the lot.
Yeah, it's Linux though, isn't it?
You have to run it on Linux, yeah.
Yeah. So it's either Raspberry Pi or a Linux,
Yeah.
Not that that's a big deal anymore.
No, true.
I've got a couple of Linux laptops that I used to use for teaching programming, because they run on older machines. They don't need the power of Windows bloatware or stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I've had to play with it. It's quite nice, actually.
Yeah. So,
I'm still toying with the idea of dumping all this and moving over to it.
Yeah. And I think this Discord's worked all right tonight. I mean, Rick's a bit choppy for me at the moment, but I think that's because possibly 4G phone line here or 5G.
Yeah, I'm tethering off my phone still.
Yeah.
Is Rick jerky on yours at the moment?
Yeah.
Is Rick doing what on mine?
Jerky. Beef jerky.
Yeah, he's not too bad, but yeah, you can tell he's a
Also,
talent.
Wait till you see the video, Rick.
Yeah, we should make some sub channels on this Discord. Just where we can maybe want to share photos and because it would be worth. I know that we use WhatsApp, but it's not a bad idea to use Discord for this type of thing as well. And if we organise the channel properly, it would be it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, because you can have multiple voice channels, you can have multiple text channels, etc.
Yeah, you could have one for troubleshooting and software and share your image.
Well, I mean, as far as I understand it, there doesn't seem to be anybody in charge of this channel as such, is there? There's no. I mean, I set it up, but.
Well, by default, you're an admin, so you've got all the rights.
Can anybody set up another channel within it?
No, I don't think. No.
So, I can grant admin to other people, though, can't I?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so you can set up. You can set up roles so you can have other admins, and you can limit what they can do to certain channels. You can have hidden channels. You can have all sorts. If you need a hand with it, give me a shout. I can show you how to set it up because obviously with the ones
it needs to be terribly complicated.
No, absolutely not.
So
but
just have a number of channels that are on specific topics.
Maybe they have a channel, one for planetary, one for deep sky. Yeah, where you can chat and post images.
That some people won't be interested in certain programs, so they won't want to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, good. So thanks for suggesting it, and I think, like I said to you before, when we first looked at using doing online meetings, I did actually set this channel up, but decided it looked a bit too Nintendo-ish, a bit too game. It looks like a game almost in parts, doesn't it, with all these little icons and things. But it's worked okay from the screen sharing point of view in the video, and it's free and it's unlimited, so that'll do for me. Okay, so. Anybody else got anything to say, or is it just good night from him?
Well, good night from him.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Well.
Andy, good.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Cheers.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Ta-da.
Cheers.